When you enter the world of fine watchmaking and start to explore what is that particular piece that does it for you, you basically step into your watch enthusiast phase as a perfectionist. You start to explore and enjoy little things in the watches. You enter the world where a hairline defect or imperfection can send you into frenzy, and even 1 millimeter of extra size can make or break the deal for you. Sometimes in life, we come across a watch that hits all the sweet spots for us for the design, aesthetics, proportions, style, colors, functions, looks and experience. But all that takes away the joy is slightly larger size. And then the best thing to happen is to be able to find the same piece, our dream watch, but in a size that goes with our wrist. We get the best of both worlds to fill our heart and the eyes. It's amazing how in horology, many new releases may not be revolutionary or groundbreaking. They don't need to be offering latest or the most complicated movements to get all the love and eyes from the watch admirers around the globe. Rather, all we need sometimes is the same iconic layout, classy looks and the same high-end finish and feel, but just that right size that we always wanted the watch to come in. Audemars Piguet reference 26315ST is that reference that ticked the boxes not only for many modern watch collectors but also the purists who always preferred the Royal Oak in actual 39mm size, and they needed a chronograph watch but in a flesh that maintains the same or similar dimensions. In the world full of bigger and larger watches to meet the market needs and demands, it's not very often that you would see a watch come out in classic dimensions yet contemporary looks, especially when the watch and the brand itself has a standing in the industry for its historic and bolder looks, from the watch Royal Oak that saved the mechanical watch industry in the hardest times of quartz crisis. This reference comes in 38mm case size, which slips between the 39mm Jumbo and 37mm Royal Oak, where 39mm is considered to be the perfect sized Royal Oak as originally conceived, designed and sketched by Gerald Genta. This Royal Oak Chrono until last year was offered only in 41mm case size. While the 41mm models are still in production, AP added this 38mm Chrono last year. And then while the overall looks and aesthetics are the same, there's another element beyond the case size that changes the experience for this particular reference. The dial comes with iconic grand tapestry pattern with all the circular engraving detailed and immaculately crafted inside the iconic square-shaped boxes in the dial. The unique design element in this particular 38mm Chrono and in this particular white or silver dial variant is the blue subdials. And I absolutely love the color combination and the contrast the dark blue Chronos give on top of white main dial. The same silver or white dial on 41mm case comes with black subdials, which has its own character and Panda look. Arguably, this configuration is still also called as Panda despite the blue subdials. Having owned the 41mm Chrono white dial, there's one thing on this 38mm Chrono that I greatly appreciate, and that is the white hands on the Chrono dials. The small hands on 41mm Chrono white dial are not painted. Rather, they come in the standard white gold polished finish and unpainted. While the polished hands for the subdials on 41mm Chrono do add that blink and stunning reflections to the dial, I have to tell you that I found them poorly legible in many light conditions, especially under the darker ambience when the hands were not reflecting the light directly. I could simply not read the subdials at all. This problem is resolved in this 38mm Chrono, and now we have white painted hands for the subdials, and they are also now the most legible hands on the subdials to be had. One design element that this 38mm Chrono adopts from the 41mm sibling is the asymmetrical date window. If you notice, the date is not centered between 4 and 5 o'clock on the dial. In fact, the out of balance of the date on this model is far more prominent than it is on the 41mm Chrono reference, likely due to the smaller dial size resulting in the date window almost coming into contact with 5 o'clock hour marker. It is subjective, and while many won't even notice it, this aesthetical misalignment can easily break the deal for others. The dial comes with the same blue colored minute chapter ring as the sub-dials, which further adds those fun looks to the watch overall. The watch comes with same AP caliber 2385, which is based off Frederick Piguet movement caliber 1185 as that of its 41mm sibling. The movement features column wheel chronograph movement to operate at 3 Hz to offer 40 hours of power reserve. Under the macro, the watch has many stories to tell. The hour markers are absolutely immaculate, polished like mirror. There's no distortion and no surface flaws whatsoever to report. The pattern for tapestry on the dial and even the concentric grooves under the close macro inspection simply tell you how much attention to detail and finest example of workmanship has gone into the making of this dial. Upon closer inspection, there is some dust on the hour markers, which isn't ideal. However, you can't spot it from naked eye. But again, no surface flaws or any signs of compromise in the polished surfaces of hour markers are on display. The dial hands show similar high-end finish and there are no flaws to report. The underside of seconds hand isn't polished or machined, but there are no spots or rust issues like many other watches I have seen and shown. The joint for the seconds hand is one of the finest one I have found under the macro and shown here. The overall finish and attention to detail is indeed impressive. All being said, the white paint on the subdials is truly a big letdown. The edges of the paint show poor workmanship and slack process of painting on AP part. I hoped this was a one-off flaw and I went ahead to inspect the other subdial, and the similar elements of disappointment along with the dust was all I could see under the macro. Again, just like the dial, the subdials show very fine and high-end grooving. Ignoring the imperfections for a moment, what I truly love about Royal Oak is the level of finish, not just in the dial, but the case and even the bracelet, and then even the tiniest of the links or the surfaces of the bracelet. The vertical lines and the way they are so sharply defined is simply a joy on its own. And this pattern then continues throughout the bracelet, which then further complements the joy of integrated bracelet watch. On my 6.5 inches wrist, the 38mm Royal Oak Chrono wears exactly how you miss the 41mm Chrono to wear if you have smaller wrists. The watch face is 28mm, which means the watch has decent amount of wrist presence and it does not feel or look small. With integrated watches, especially Royal Oaks, you will not want to know just the lug-to-lug height because it tells you nothing. And this is primarily because the bracelet does not stick straight down, rather it tapers outwards, increasing the watch span. What you would want to know in terms of watch wear is the watch minimum span or spread. The 38mm Royal Oak Chrono accordingly has the minimum span of 49mm. My wrist span is 55mm, so you can see that it wears simply beautifully on my wrist. The watch bracelet is 23mm at the case and it tapers down to 16mm at the clasp. The bracelet on Royal Oak is a joy to look at, and when you experience it, it really opens up a new chapter of watch making for you, where you don't even need to look at the dial to enjoy the magic that the watch has to offer. The watch contours to the wrist simply beautifully, and there's no sense that it is a large or a small watch. It rather wears just beautifully on my 6.5 inches wrist. The beautifully brushed bracelet comes with double deployant clasp, which is very sturdy and durable. The double button release means that if you press only one button of the clasp, it will not release the watch, and this provides extra safety to the watch from the accidental release. The bracelet, however, does not come with any quick length adjustment mechanism, and there is no extension link or micro adjustments too. Royal Oak Chronograph in 38mm size is one of those interesting watches that in a flesh and looks literally doesn't offer anything new. It's the same watch, same design, same movement, material and experience. It just offers one thing better for a larger community of collectors: a size that wears better on smaller wrists. But then it's also not just about the wear, but also the resemblance with the 39mm jumbo. With Royal Oak on the wrist, you know in your heart that you are wearing the best in the business watch that offers the experience that simply can't be had with any other model or make in this price point. It's not hyped, it's not mass-produced, it's not even limited edition. If you were in a market for a chronograph in this price point, and this Panda dial chrono is what you ended up buying, you have my words. You will enjoy the best of all, the finish, the feel, and the function.